Hey guys, what's going on? This is Dave Tilley. I'm here at Power Monkey Camp. We're here with the guys from Barbell Shrugged, and we want to do a quick little assessment for the front rack and talk about some things that can go wrong. It's really important in the front rack that if you have wrist pain or you can't get into a good front rack position, there's a lot of reasons why that could be happening. And if you just kind of like jump to a random drill and don't actually assess in front of that, you're going to spin your wheels, and you could probably actually be leading to more problems down the road. So most common example, people do a front rack. They try to do, push jerks or whatever, and they feel like their wrists are gonna explode. So this wrist may be getting pushed into a motion hypermobile wise and getting pain because maybe my elbow is stiff, my shoulder is stiff, my middle back is stiff. If you don't clear those things off in a checklist one by one, you're not gonna know what's causing the problem. So we're gonna have my friend here just go up in a front rack for me.
Full grip or?
Yep, full grip.
Okay.
All fingers.
This is gonna be hard.
So he's gonna guillotine himself right in the neck. No. So what we see, right? So we see the elbows are dipped, right? And it's really hard for him to get his chin locked down all the way. So what we're gonna do is have him come back down, rest the barbell. We're gonna check these things one by one, right? So first thing we wanna see is, can your wrist extend to 90 plus degrees backwards this way, okay? Without having a pinch here. Very important for handstands to get your center of mass over, stacked in a good alignment. Also, again, as we're talking, very good for front rack. Very important overall. We find that people grip all day long, right? Barbell, CrossFit, hanging, rings, and their inside of their soft tissue here becomes extremely stiff. So let me have you just go like this for me. I'm gonna go like that. Good, and if we look at this angle, right, he's got a little limitation here, and it kind of bends back here. The other one you can also do is on the floor. Let's come down hands and knees for me, and just see if you can go here and just rock your wrist straight over. Good, and we're looking to see, can he make an angle with the floor here and not let his heel pop up of his hand, and how does that feel?
Pretty rough.
Come on back. So that's what it is. Can you get there? Does the heel not pop off, and does your wrist feel like it's gonna explode? So for people with these issues, definitely something we wanna work on. The easiest thing you can do, come on over here. We're gonna have him just go right on the inside of his forearm, and he's gonna do a couple passes up and down right through his inside of his forearm. Go ahead, try that. Obviously a little bit harder surface, but we're working with what we got. So all the way down, yeah, and let your hands move up and down. Let's go 5 on the front, and then 5 maybe on the inside here. It's pretty great, huh?
Feels good.
And then on the outside, yep. So again, we're trying to get inside the soft tissue of when you grip. All this flexor pronator tissue attaches to your medial epicondyle right here. And again, as you grip more, you can progressively lose the ability to extend your wrist here. So spend a lot of time on here for people that have that screen as a positive for limited mobility.
On the other side?
Yep, I will just do one for the...
Okay.
So let's stand up. So next we're gonna check elbow. So can he get his elbow bent so that his knuckles are close to his shoulder?
Not at all.
So we turn sideways. He's got some space here, right? Yeah,
Too much guns, man.
Too much guns. The biceps are huge, right? So the biggest thing we see is an error here, turn sideways. Sometimes people are doing this assessment and they're way out tall like this. Wouldn't really want to jerk like this, so we're gonna come nice and close in the front, and as he moves in closer, we see that he's limited. So the other thing here is if he relaxes totally, and I go to try to help him, I get the same thing. It's stiff, right? So this is probably a true mobility problem, and where do you feel that?
Let me do it again. In the triceps. Yeah.
Perfect, yeah. So this is common, right? Sometimes it can be the bony alignment in the capsule itself. Those things are a little bit harder to address, and I wouldn't recommend trying to do those on your own. Maybe find someone who's a little bit more specialized in elbow rehab. But if it's just a big old stretch in the back of his arm, long head of your tricep comes up behind, right on the underside of the glenoid, and it crosses both joints. So if you're here and you're tensioning one side to get your elbows up, you could be limiting it on the other side. So similar to this one, find the long head of your tricep on the outside, and you're just gonna go a couple passes. You can do this with a barbell, but just up and down about 3 or 4 times. Try that. You can also use a foam roller. It's a little bit easier, but usually you want to find a couple hot spots.
Oh man.
Yeah, don't kill yourself. Don't go crazy, but a lot of push-ups, a lot of dips. People become very stiff in their tricep soft tissue. But again, so now we have 2 things we know are going on. We have his wrist extension is limited, his elbow flexion is limited, so those are already coming a little bit of a warm-up for whenever he tries to do a front rack or an Ollie workout with jerks in it. Cool?
Basically, I'm like the Tin Man, right?
That's all right, it's all right. You have other great qualities, it's okay. So next thing we're gonna do is just see, can he have pure shoulder elevation in this plane, which is slightly close to flexion, but we want to see, can he elevate his arms up and keep his rib cage down? We see people who are stiff, and sometimes in their teres, they'll lift their arm and the inferior border of their angle of their scap will come along for the ride, and they hyperextend into their rack position, or they don't have good lumbopelvic control and they get to here, and again those ribs pop up. So he'll turn sideways, and let's just see if you can go straight up this way. Keep your core nice and tight. Good. It's pretty good, but you see this coming up a little bit. Relax for me. I'm gonna help you out here. I'm narrow. Good. And I can even kind of hold his shoulder blade, come back down. You can even kind of resist a little bit of that inferior motion. Go ahead. But he's pretty good. You know, he's got really good elevation of his shoulder, not too much stiffness. Say somebody was really struggling with this and they were just kind of stuck and you pushed them and they couldn't go anywhere, they're just like tipping over backwards. The one we like a lot for this is gonna be with a PVC pipe. So the biggest error we see, people who are stretching their shoulders, you know, lat and teres are internal rotators along with your subscap, and that's usually the offending tissue from all the volume of overhead pull-ups or rope climbs or trying to keep close bar path into here. You can get very stiff in your lats. Now when you stretch, if your palms are internally rotated or you're hyperextended in your upper back, you're slacking that tissue and you're not actually targeting what you need to find. We find a lot of people who come to us with shoulder pain because they're stretching their arms like this with their thumbs down, or they have their hands on a block and they're like this. Sorry if I just screamed in the mic, but they're stretching in an internally rotated position. So now we're bypassing the tissue, and a lot of people get impingement-based pain from that. So we want to tweak this a little bit. So I'm happy to grab this pipe in an under grip position.
All right.
And you're gonna kneel down. Elbows are gonna go about shoulder width apart where you would rack up for your front rack. Round in this upper back quite a bit. So for this drill, we're trying to focus on the soft tissue, right? So we're gonna round in our spine. And now this is an externally rotated position. His elbows are locked in, and just have you sink back to your heels. And then take a deep breath in, exhale fully, and you'll see he has pretty good motion. Someone who is stiff, they're gonna rock back and they're gonna be about here, and they're gonna feel like their arms are very, very stretched here. Make sure the person feels the stretch here. They do not feel the stretch up top. We don't wanna have a closing pain here from a pinch, okay? So you can relax with that. So we got wrist, we got elbow, we got front rack this way. The last one we wanna check is stand up again for me. Is along with flexion and elevation, do they have external rotation? Your shoulder joint capsule is taught here differently than it might be for a back squat or it might be for an overhead position. So when he stands up with his elbow here, can he externally rotate this way, which he's doing a pretty good job of, right? So that's not too terrible. Somebody might be stiff and they might have limited here. This is a tricky one. Be careful about how hard you push this one, because sometimes, again, the soft tissue is limited and they might have a problem there. But we want to make sure we can rotate this way to get a wide jerk grip for people who are trying to get more collarbone front rack space here, right, to get your arms to press through. So if someone is limited, the one we like here, very gentle on this, don't go crazy, but you're gonna hold yourself in a front rack and just very gently kind of mobilize your shoulder joint this way. Should not have any shoulder pain. It shouldn't feel like it's gonna hurt at all on the front of the back. Just keep your elbow nice and relaxed. Okay, this one's not as common. You'll probably find some other areas that are more limited, but just try that. Again, he is not appropriate for this one. We're just gonna show it. So the ones he has so far, yep. Good, and he has good motion there. But so we've said he needs wrist, he needs elbow, he does not need shoulder flexion, he does not need shoulder external rotation. If he just warms up every day and just starts cranking on this, he might cause him some shoulder issues because he's already probably mobile enough for that position. And if he feels pretty stiff elsewhere in his front rack, but he's doing this, he doesn't need that. Okay, he needs wrist and elbow.
What kind of range of motion should I see here?
That's dependent on the person, and sometimes Chad and Jody, they like to see about 1 to 2 inches outside your shoulder width. So if you can get outside of shoulder width to here, some people are different. Some people jerk a little bit more closer, a little bit more wider, but we try to see if we can get just your hand, finger, outside the width, and again, I mean, it's probably between 20 and 30 degrees.
And how many reps would you say to do that?
Yeah, I'd say maybe 10 or so on each side, just more breathing than really cranking. Mm-hmm. We're more fans of consistency over intensity, so we don't want to, like, you know, torque on our shoulder joint like crazy to get it way out here.
So like maybe 1 set of 10 for each side?
Yep, we have people make a checklist, so like 1 set of maybe 30 to 40 seconds on each forearm, 30 seconds to 40 seconds on each soft tissue on the lat, 30 seconds maybe in your front rack stretch, all the things that are limited on.
And then yesterday you were having us do it in between our sets.
Huge, yeah.
Yeah, so would you say, yes, if you were doing like say front squats, and you know you're tight in maybe the wrist, you go in between your sets of front squats, you do your wrist, you do your soft tissue work for your elbow.
Yeah, so maybe 10 minutes in your warm-up, and then in between sets that you're doing whatever technical drill, or if you're even front squatting, whatever your volume is, you probably have 5 or 6 sets between warm-up and actual volume. You can get a lot of good changes within that set and help them transfer over to whatever you're working on.
Okay.
Cool. So the last one we want to do is thoracic spine. A lot of people do have true stiffness in their middle back, so these 12 levels of rib cage here, they get stuck into a rounded position and they can't get their elbows up like this, right? So they feel wrist pain, they feel elbow pain, they're stuck this way, right? And they're mobilizing this and this, so they're trying to stretch this and this, they're doing all sorts of crazy stuff with their forearm, but the problem is here, right? You can't extend to here. So we do 2 assessments for this, both to kind of cross over. Let me have you lay on your stomach for me. And you're gonna push up into kind of like a seal stretch. Yep, so this is also assessment for the hip extension mobility on this side, but we want to see a very nice a nice even curve throughout his entire spine. And we see in him, he's got a little bit of a hinge point. So if I put my hands here, there's a pretty steep angle here, and then it flattens out and it even kind of starts to round a little bit on top. So you can relax for me. We'd like to see a nice, smooth, even curve so that each level of his spine is doing equal share and he's not getting loaded. So we do this one, I would say you're a little limited there. The other one we can do is have you kind of sit like I am on your hands and your knees. Yeah, and just face this way. Okay. And we're gonna go 1 elbow between, right here. Yeah, rock those heels all the way back. We rock them back so they can't cheat with their lower back. Some people can kind of cheat this test, but we wanna make sure we use both together. One hand goes across your chest, and you're gonna rotate up and try to look at the ceiling. Good, come on back down. And we're gonna look from here straight ahead. Do one more for me. Good, not too bad, but he is lifting up a little bit. Let's try the other side. Make sure that elbow goes right between your knees too.
Okay.
Yeah, try this one. Good, not too bad. So it's a little limited on his left, right's not too bad. If somebody was really limited, they would probably look like this, just over between. So he'd probably try to move and he would only get to like here. If I came over and tried to help him a little bit, we'd be really stuck. We'd like to see about 50 plus degrees from this angle to the horizon to here. Okay, if somebody is limited, what they're gonna do, we can use a foam roller. Let me have you lay on your side for me. Yeah, and you're gonna put your top leg up on top of this. Yep. This bottom hand can go, actually let's support your neck actually. Usually you'd have somebody support their head, use your hand for that. We don't want to have someone's neck like flopped over. Oh, look at this, perfect, excellent. So we got a teammate assist here. So this hand will hold in your lower back position, and this hand's gonna go right in your ribs. This is gonna be the cutest thing ever, ready? You're gonna turn your head and you're gonna rotate away. And you're gonna rotate, take a deep breath.
Hey, honey.
And then exhale, good. That was the best thing I've ever seen.
That's enough.
So, and you can relax, but we want to get somebody in a position where their lower back is not excessively moving. Should be no low back pain at all. Turn the head, eyes go where the rest of your body goes, and you can even look all the way with your neck, and then you can rotate with your ribs. And as you breathe in end range, your lungs expand your rib cage, which attaches to your thoracic spine. So when you're at end range and you're a little stuck, when you inhale, exhale, you mobilize your ribs on their own. So we're a big fan of breathing for the mobility part of it. We're also a big fan of breathing because as you fully exhale, we can tap into like the parasympathetic side of kind of like relaxation of tone. And sometimes people get really good changes between. So
how long would you stay in this position?
I usually go like 2 to 3 breaths.
Okay.
Yeah, cycle breaths, fully inhale out on both, right? So based on what you find, right? So we would do these things and then we would go back and we would retest your front rack and we'd see how it feels. And between sets, if you just do 1 or 2 things, we see people who have really good progress over time. But again, the take-home messages here is like, make a checklist, think about all the things that could go wrong, think about whether they have a mobility problem, or maybe all these things check out and their front rack still looks terrible. They need coaching, some stability work maybe, or just a better, technical cue to get them into a right position. It's mobility, control, technique, maybe programming, maybe they just fall apart at the end of their heavy sets of front squats. All those things can be possibly limited.
All right, so for more with Dave, we did a whole podcast with you and Dan. Check it out on barbellshrug.com.
Yep, and you can find Dan at fitnesspainfree.com. You can find me at shiftmovementscience.com. And then I also work at Champion Physical Therapy in Boston, if everyone's in the neck of the woods.
Thanks, Dave.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was awesome.